Well, thank you very much. Okay, devolution, it all started, you could say, with Scotland and Wales and then London, but really, I suppose in many ways it started with the City Growth Commission in 2013, and then Greater Manchester, Sheffield, West Yorkshire, West Midlands, Liverpool City region followed 2014 and 2015. And many of those cities already had a great collaboration with the districts within those city areas. But the main point about the City Growth Commission was that it demonstrated that we could make so much more in the economy if we have agglomeration of local places working together more closely together, and it could have some kind of economic devolution to the cities. And that was the basic point. So now the current government is very keen to complete the map, which has been a little bit higgledy-piggledy. There are some concerns that some of the places on the coast in the south, not maybe so much Brighton, but Plymouth and Medway and so forth, that you get some strange bedfellows together in these devolution deals. And we know that there are concerns about this. There are other concerns about the sizes of combined authorities and the sizes of unitary authorities, and how local decision making is going to be in these things. But we have the man in the hot seat who knows all the answers here to tell us what's going to happen. And here's Cecily, you're very welcome. Just say this is Cecily Sampson. And I'd like to hand over. Welcome, John. Over to you to give us the lowdown.
No, thanks very much for the invitation and the introduction. So, yes, you sort of made a nice sort of start with the introduction. Devolution at the moment, around half the population of England live in devolved areas. So, whilst it's obviously going to be very new and alien to us down here, there will work examples around parts of England and, of course, the devolved nations. So I'm just going to give a bit of a brief sort of talk through of what, first of all, what devolution is, what local government reorganisation is, how they're two separate entities running parallel to each other, however they will really combine. And I hope I'm not going to sort of jump across too much with it, but it will just sort of demonstrate how it naturally links if I do. And rather than me sort of speak to you, I love to answer questions, convene a bit of discussion, and of course, more importantly, take any ideas and suggestions you have, because it is still very much in the melting pot stage. So, as Casper said, the new government is very keen on enacting this in the 2024 general election manifesto, which seems a lifetime ago now. It was very clear intention for within the United Kingdom for an establishment of a new Council of the Nations and Regions, and that will be made up of the Prime Minister, the First Ministers of Scotland and Wales, the First and Deputy of Northern Ireland, and the mayors of combined authority regions. So that leads on to devolution. So that would involve geographical areas becoming known as mayoral strategic authorities. That will comprise of an elected mayor and elected representatives from the local authorities within that geographical footprint. And I'll cover that a bit more in detail when I talk about the local government reorganisation. So this mayoral strategic authority will have devolved and funded powers down from Westminster. So at the moment in Brighton and Hove, our next tier of government at the moment is Westminster. So this will create a regionalised, almost not a stopgap as such, but a regionalised body which would encompass and hold those powers. The powers they would have would include decision making on transport, skills and employment support, housing and planning, environment and climate change, supporting businesses and research, and public service integration. So, we'll come together with a lot of services which having people having a say locally how that will run in our areas, you know, as demonstrated like in Greater Manchester, West Midlands, who've had those powers for a number of years, and really sort of see the benefits of having that. So in order to create this nation or this Council of Nations and Regions, areas were invited to apply for a fast-track devolution programme, and in January of this year, East and West Sussex County Councils and Brighton and Hove City Council submitted a joint bid to express interest in this, and in February, Sussex and Brighton, as it's known, Hove's completely missed off of that. I'm as disappointed as you guys are. Were accepted for this fast track programme in February. So at the moment, the government are currently hosting a consultation, which is run from the 17th of Feb to the 13th of April. So that will be an opportunity for any member of the public, any business, any authority to submit their views of what they feel a proposal, which is a Sussex footprint, will work in practice for that. The government will review that, and then they have the parliamentary powers to authorise that new mayoral strategic authority. And all being well, a mayoral election will be held in May 2026. So jumping slightly now into the local government reorganisation. So this is so within this mayoral authority, it will be made up of local authorities, like we have now. So currently within Sussex, we have East and West Sussex as county councils, and within them you have borough and district councils such as Lewes District Council, for example. So the county council will provide services such as education within that area, and the districts and boroughs will provide services such as refuse and recycling. So depending, you say, for example, you live in Lewes, you would need to go to one councillor or one council to inquire about some services, and for other services, you would go to another body. Whereas in Brighton and Hove, we're the only unitary authority in Sussex. So if you live anywhere in the city, you would go to your local councillor or the council for all the services which are provided. So as part of the local government reorganisation, the plan is for these two-tier authorities to merge and form as unitary authorities. The intention is for the populations of those unitary authorities to be around about 380,000 to 500,000 residents. So a bit of context, so Sussex has a population of around 1.7 million. So sort of rule of thumb, that would mean there would be 3, 4 or 5 unitary authorities within that footprint. And to give a bit further context, so Brighton and Hove is currently at around 280,000 residents.
So what did you say, Sussex?
About 1.7 million. And authorities are required to submit any initial sort of quite broad proposals of what they would like to see make up of these unitary authorities. Government by the 21st of March, so they haven't given us much time, but Brighton and Hove City Council are running an engagement event online, which is running up until the 10th of March to again get people sort of broad feelings, so sort of questions like you know, if Brighton and Hove was to expand its footprint, would you rather expand it to the east, the west, potentially up to the north, certainly not to the south? And that's going to form our submission to government on the 21st of March. The government will provide feedback on that to us and all the other authorities, and then will be required to make a final submission on the 26th of September. And during that time, there'll be a lot more consultation events, etc., with residents to really try and get everyone on board. Because it's important, you know, we get this right. It is a once in a generation chance of reorganisation. That's the first time, sort of since the early 70s, where anything this large has taken place. Certainly down in our region. As Brighton and Hove, as I say, is already a unitary authority, it does have a slightly different dynamic. So we would be more in a position to see how we can sort of grow as a unitary rather than merging with others and starting from scratch to form a unitary. So that does again put us in a good footing, and other authorities, whether it be the county councils or the districts and boroughs, are looking to us about, you know, how we operate, how we run as a unitary, and you know, it's still relatively new in the grand scheme of things as a unitary since the mid to late 90s. So we've gone all through that process of being established, growing, and working to suit population need. So, just to sort of summarise, I guess, the final models look somewhat like an overarching Sussex-wide authority, which has these devolved powers for government, and within that footprint, there'll be sort of 3 to 5 single-tier councils running the council services as we know within those footprints within. So I hope that sort of has covered some bits.
With the county council and the districts and boroughs, for example, in East Sussex, will become 2 unitaries.
Quite possibly that. So that's something which is all up in the air for discussion at the moment and negotiating, seeing what residents feel are the natural fit. So without, like I say, preempting anything, yeah, inevitably both East Sussex, you know, would.
Because that's a bigger population is than Brighton Hove, and so is West Sussex. So why would Brighton Hove be expanding?
Because we've got around 280,000 residents at the moment, and the government are saying these new unitaries should ideally have between 380 and 500,000. So, sort of rule of thumb, Brighton and Hove will really need to be looking at having an additional 100,000 residents in order to operate as one of these new unitaries.
Will be made by the people living in the various bits of.
Yeah.
So it was not right to say that at the moment there is a very rapid consultation on this.
An engagement. So I think they're being very careful to call this an engagement because the final submission is not until September.
Yeah.
So Brighton Hove is one of the only areas actually doing this non-statutory or non-mandatory engagement activity to really just get a broad sense from what residents want. But it will be the authorities making the submission. Ultimately, it will be government making the final decision on anything. But we have to demonstrate to them, you know, what consultations we've done, what residents have fed in, etc.
It seems we have seamlessly moved into Q&As, which is the right moment as well. So, Joy.
Yeah, I just wanted to say some meetings that I've been in, you might not be absolutely just before you've given this role. So first of all, we heard that we're already a unitary, without the change in law, that we don't have to change. So if government wanted us to change, it would be the size. but they can't come impose upon us without more, and we don't, there's nothing to say that we have to be grow by 100,000. I mean, I've already completed my survey, not that I want to lead you into anything specifically, but personally, I find the length of time it's taken us to get this overall majority in the council, the good that I can see that we're doing. We don't want to lose our control by sort of diluting ourselves too much. So personally, what makes sense to me geographically is to take in the 2 wards that are over in these pits in Saltdown, East Haven, who are in Kent Town CLB, bring those into the fold. That's an extra 20,000, I think, takes us up to 300,000. So in my own response to the consultation, that's what I'm saying. So just to be clear, so there's no, we don't know for sure that we have to go to 300,000. And some of the arguments that Jess, the CEO, was giving to us in the cabinet a couple of weeks ago, against, for example, going in with West Sussex, simple. Some people can be quite idealistic without thinking about the nuts and bolts of it. And Jess, luckily, because she works in the authority where this happened, can be quite practical about it. So silly things, very important things like West Sussex, the whole IT infrastructure is on a Google platform, we're on Microsoft. Imagine the nightmare of that stopping over that all over on day one, or stopping half the over on day one.
That's already an issue in district in East Sussex, between districts and boroughs.
Yeah, right. So we don't need to replicate that problem within Brighton and Hove doing.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah, that's so there was that. And just the magnitude of it with the staff, on day one, on the day when it's the cut, the staff need to do from one organisation to another. So what she was good as advising us. She's really good at that. Advising us, be careful what you wish for, what's in it for us? What is there to gain from adding Lancing and whatever, what's the next bit out there? Sure, probably nothing. And some other people in the room were, dreaming about, it'd be nice to have New Haven Walk and Sean, why? What does that give us? You're a unique authority, we're a unique city. It's important that we don't dilute that. We don't be full of tours or reform.
Yeah.
That's my.
And I think I'm pretty much on the same page as you. I think, and what we've got at home, like I say, as we've already got that formation, we have got that bit more of the sway and swing. And I think what you said, you can get the parts of Kent Town C, which aren't within the city, does make the most sense to me. Yeah.
I think there's another really important point, which is that of all the areas, all the potential unitaries in Sussex, Brighton is really the growth engine. Yeah. And so whatever you do want to protect its ability and retain that role. I do also think, by the way, that the government has said quite clearly that they are quite flexible on the issue of numbers. So it is 380 to 500, but I've heard 330 mentioned at 350. I think Jim would mind. It's interesting, it's become almost a discussion about numbers as opposed to a discussion about some of the issues around it. Sorry, Leslie.
Really interesting points on all sides. What I find interesting when I look at the map of Brighton and Hove, and obviously, if you don't have knowledge of the city and where the boundaries start and end, you probably see Brighton, Hove, and Lancing and Worthing as one coastal town. It's one coastal strip from above. Obviously, we know where the boundaries are. I'd be interested to hear numbers on efficiencies. It's more efficient to have because it seems seamless when you drive down the road. Is there something to gain from having one rubbish collection? Is there something to gain from looking at one transport, one bus company? So those are the questions I'm asking myself.
There's no reason for them not to have contracts that run across.
And that's what the. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's thanks Leslie. So I think that will be the beauty of the devolution, because having this Sussex-wide authority with the powers for establishing these bus networks, involving rail, there's the economics of scale of that size that will make it more financially viable for larger networks, which can be brought into public ownership for trade to travel across the region. So I think we've got to sort of look at how Sussex can work together, which is the devolution side of it, basically how the councils run services, which, let's face it, massive giant councils probably don't work as efficiently as smaller, sort of medium-sized ones. So I think that's again back to Joy's point, looking, we don't need to be this mega geographically spread council to be successful.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm having advice, so I know about economies of scale, and I don't think us joining together with Shaw and Nancy would give us any more economies of scale than we've got there.
Great, yeah, yes, I'm going to just say, it's great to have flow in conversation, we'll try and keep it a little structured as well. Penny, and then Adrian.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to kind of bring it down to residence level, really, because I kind of get that higher level local authority sort of helicopter view, as it were. But it's very difficult. I haven't done the consultation because it's very difficult as a resident to know how it's going to affect you and whether it's going to be beneficial or not. To me, you know, is my rubbish going to be collected more regularly? Are the streets going to be swept? All that kind of basic stuff. And I can see the benefit to the smaller local authorities in becoming one unitary, because then residents are not having to call somebody about education and another organisation about rubbish collection or something. So I can see the benefit there, but I can't see the benefit in us changing our basic city kind of structure, really. As you say, we can't go south, we don't want to go north, and what's the benefit in the east-west expansion? I don't see. Are there benefits, John, for residents? You know, on ordinary residents.
In terms of their local government reorganisation, I can't really see a too great a scale. Probably actually more for the residents in the east. So in, let's say, for example, Falmer Village, they're under Lewis District Council at the moment, but they do actually use some Brighton Hove services, such as the Rangers services, groundworks, certain elements of planning. So it probably actually benefit those guys more for being under a unitary which they already have a relationship with. But yeah, I'm really sort of glad I'm hearing sort of this from you guys, saying that, you know, you do recognise Brighton's unique identity. You do like the fact we are a city with its identity, and you don't want to lose that. You don't want it to be quite big. And I think I didn't hear that from Jess myself, but it sounded that's sort of her sort of view of it as well. So that does add weight and strength for us to make a submission along those lines, notwithstanding, of course, what other comments are submitted on the engagements.
Great, okay. So I'm going to ask for a couple of points before John comes back. Adrian.
Yeah, if you just indulge me for a couple of minutes. We haven't talked about Sussex mayoralty, because that's obviously quite a big thing, you know, collapsing into West Sussex councils. I haven't got a problem with that at all. I think we will struggle to get that mayoralty, actually, because Katie Gordon's already lobbed a hat in the ring, hasn't she, as the police and crime commissioner. So I understand that purely in terms of strategic economic issues. You know, it will lever in resources into this county. So, you know, I get that bigger picture. The interesting thing to me about the unitary model, which again I haven't got a problem with at all, because if you go in, you talk about local residents. And please come back to me if you think I'm being wrong, but many people don't understand the technological issues of local government in this country. It's complex. Who does what? You know, difference between county and district. But, you know, we've got all the unitary, so there's all those issues. I'm interested in timescales, because I think we're going into a big picture of a Sussex mayoralty. Now, taking the point I think you raised, Joy, and you raised about things like IT, I worked at Lewis District Council and Eastbourne Borough Council when they merged into shared services. And Xavier and Worthing have absolute nightmare. So it isn't a simple issue. And so the timescale issue for me is we've got, what have we got, 4 years left of this government? What's the, is the ambition too great, quite frankly? And that's what worries me, got to be honest, because it is a massive change. And then probably the last thing I'll say is, I think it is a chance if we do go down that road to sort out the boundary issues, as you said, about Peacehaven, Saltdean and so on. It's absurd. It's just madness, Peacehaven, being in Lewis District Council wards, but it's, goes into Pentown and Peacehaven. I don't have an issue with actually going across west, because I actually agree. I think it's madness, really. Southwick, Fishergate, Lancing, people don't understand that boundary difference. They see it all as one area, one geography. Same as you even into Shoreham. We'll get the number 2 bus, we just go along the road. So there is some chance to actually sort some of the illogical boundaries. And in terms of local government reorganisation, it's happened throughout our lives, 74. You go all the way through. So there are opportunities, but maybe it doesn't need to be so seismic. We can sort out some of the weird little things that don't make much sense at the moment.
Yeah, it's going for growth though, isn't it? But anyway, Janet.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask whether you think there's any chance they might go for a supplementary vote system to vote in the new mayors rather than first past the post.
Yes.
With the advantage that I think more than 50% of the vote would be needed and people would be able to vote for their kind of part vote as their first preference.
That really, thanks there both. That really leads on nicely because you mentioned about the Police and Crime Commissioner elections. That's where we had Katie Bourne in. So if you look at just those results, you think, oh no, it's a Tory stronghold. But you remember that was on a very low turnout on a first past the post system. Whereas if that election we just had for that Police and Crime Commissioner was run on some sort of alternative PR-based, supplementary, any other first past the post, there's every chance Labour would have won. We came, came comfortably second without really any campaigning for that particular election. Every chance that Lib Dems, Greens, etc., would have given second votes to Labour. So that could have won. So I know it has been raised. What is the voting model going to be for that one? I think Labour will be pushing for that. When Labour's introduced devolved Nation Scotland, Wales, London, etc., they all used the PR-based voting system. Something Labour are very keen on pushing, just not in Westminster for it. So I think that is a real possibility that it will happen. I know it's something a lot of people do want.
That's a really important conversation, isn't it? That will really happen on Thursday.
That's all. I was just going to answer just the last points. That's okay. I'm glad you really mentioned the illogical boundaries. I think the one which I don't really understand is Saltdean, how that's divided in half for such a small area. I speak with a couple of councillors who represent Saltdean, and I asked them at council meeting last week, so what is this all about? How did this ever come to light? And it happened in the 1930s, but even they didn't really go down. I think it was a bit of a rabbit hole if we looked into it any deeper. So again, something like that really does make sense, where you've got Londridge Avenue and Saltdean. One half of the road is in Brighton, the other half is in Lewis. So it's a good opportunity to air those out. And with the Fisher's Gates, Portslade, and where I live in Hangington, actually, I spend a reasonable amount of time in Portslade for shops, etc. going, and it is, like I say, really is one urban area, so there's no real clear definitive boundaries. But I suppose with sort of any boundaries, there's always a sort of degree of them being arbitrary, aren't there? I think that sort of everything you covered in, like I say, I really appreciate the points you say, how complex the organisations are, how they operate, and for the new ones will have all those new complexities to come with it.
Thank you, we go. Says me, then Mickey, is it?
Nicky.
Nicky, okay. Says
What,
me.
what I'm trying to understand, is it the intention to delegate more authority from central government to this new set of bodies? And what are the authority that is going to be delegated? Are they going to be tax raising powers, or are they going to have planning, decision making, whereby central government will override them? Or alternatively, are we trying to create county structures based more on economies and scale, whereby it makes sense to put 5 or 6 sections under one, because you're going to get massive economies of scale? I'm not sure what we're trying to achieve. And was this guided by some overall land use study, which gives some indication of what are the economic opportunities in terms of the various land use and the conflicts between the two to create this new body? Are people just going to come up with any old idea that I have, which, based more on micro histories of sorting out little boundary problems?
No, so yeah, no, really good points for that. So it does cover both. So it will be the economics of scale in terms of the larger region, but it is effectively going to have that new authority will have powers devolved from central government.
Like
So
Manchester?
Yeah, so yeah,
Like Manchester?
yeah, very similar to that. So that's, and you mentioned about tax creating powers as well. So Manchester has this like overnight tourist tax, for example, which are a levy onto hotels. That's something which in Brighton Hove we can't do at the moment, whereas this new body could allow something like that to happen. So that, we really recognise the benefits of tourism in the city, but when people come down, spend a day on the beach, leave their rubbish behind, unfortunately, they're not paying anything into the services which come and clear all that up. So having a tourist type levy tax on that will be able to help pay for that and keep Brighton as a great tourist destination. I mean, if it wasn't for areas such as Manchester, West Midlands, etc., London, having all these already, I would probably myself be fairly sceptical about how it would work. But the way I see it, I think it's reasonable to say it's been tried and tested now over the few years about how it works. Overall, it's sort of a bit misleading. I think when we think of the mayor, we think that's one person with a lot of power and a lot of control, but it's going to be the mayor plus a couple of representatives from each of these new local authorities. So it's going to be quite a wide range in body on their on the executive. And at the end of the day, these people are accountable to the public and can be voted out if you feel they're not being representative.
Right, Nikki?
I wanted to ask you about the delegation of NHS budgets. So I'm Wishmaster on disability rep, and university rep. So I'm aware of what's the relationship with the ICB in terms of commissioning. And I know, for example, I sit with the Brighton Hove Autism Board, there are no commission pathways for autistic adults without learning difficulties. And we've got one provider, Sussex Partnership NHS Trust. So So there seems to be a disconnect between local need and what is actually being commissioned. And will the mayor have a role potentially on how much delegation of budgets will there be?
Okay, so I mean, if it's possible, I could come back and email in a fuller response if that's for yourself and pass it on. But my understanding is that this new mayor strategic authority wouldn't have the control over the budget. So I think that's still going to be very much within the integrated care board to manage services across the footprint.
So would the mayor not have a seat on the ICB?
I can't answer that, I'm afraid, because I don't know, but I
Can
will
I just say,
endeavour
there is
to
a big
find out.
difference here between the Greater Manchester deal, where there is indeed a
And it wasn't
devolved health
incremental
budget.
thing that came down over time.
And then in Manchester, of course, you've got the opportunity for health and care integration and innovation as a result of that.
Yes.
But that is not happening here at the present time. I do think the joint commissioning, ICB, and between adult services and NHS, for example, is becoming a more and more important conversation, regardless of the devolution. It will happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's happening pretty slowly, though.
Yeah.
But I know we'll endeavour to find out more
That would be really
about
helpful, if I could give you my email.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Leslie.
It's probably just worth mentioning when I read the papers, and it's been quite a lot to read actually. I stumbled over one really interesting detail, and these new strategic combined authorities will get more powers over time, because when they mature and get older, government is looking to increase the number of sort of powers and it looks to increase the integrated settlement. So I think I'm not aware of how many years it needs to be established, but it's definitely a maturing process.
And have we appointed an integrated commission lead? Is that right? Yeah.
Okay, so now we also have a question that's been sent in.
Yeah,
by-
but that's
by-
been
by-
sent in.
No, by one of our members.
Right, basically, I think we've kind of covered some of these points, but basically Nick has kind of sent in that he's very concerned about the prospect of having a Tory mayor, and obviously there's people like favour voting to mitigate that, but like, what's your perspective on that?
Well, I'm aware of having any Tories in any position. So, I mean, yeah, there's always a worry for that, but I don't feel that not having a devolved settlement is a reason not to do it. Labour will put a candidate forward, Labour will campaign to win. We've proven in the last few months we can win in all parts of the country in areas before we never would win. So yeah, whilst it is always, while we're waking up to a Tory reform winning an election, it's, it's something which we will go in and fight and win. And yeah, again, sort of notwithstanding the points we made about how various voting models are being used. So again, some might favour Labour more than first past the post. But equally, even if we don't win the actual mayoral position, we have a great chance of having the reps on that board from the local authorities. Got Brighton, Hove, Worthing, Crawley, Hastings. But all areas where we can realistically get Labour figures. So we could end up in a situation where Labour and potentially Lib Dems in Lewis Eastbourne areas, will outnumber the mayor if that mayor is a Conservative.
Well, outvote the mayor on the executive is what you're really saying. And I've heard it said also that even, a Tory mayor with the powers is better than not having a mayor at all. And there is an argument that some make. There is, though, another side to that, which is that, if actually, Brighton, as I was saying earlier, Brighton and Hove is a kind of engine of growth. And there are other parts of the country, particularly more rural parts, which are growth inhibitors and NIMBYs, whatever, don't want development. So if you do get that, it can actually stop us from doing what we need. Brighton has so much to offer. Your point about health innovation, we can actually do if we did get the full. The Brighton is a terrific
Brighton
place.
would be a fantastic place to do it, because mental health is a real high cost
Yes,
to our world
Exactly,
languages.
yeah.
And there is a model elsewhere where you turn things around, do it. So that's something I'm going to be talking about in my branch.
and I do think the government is actually really keen to see all this kind of innovation, you know, but the fact is there's so many.
We haven't got the budget.
But it's going through stages, isn't it? So it's a matter of making it work, isn't it? This devolution thing. But are there any other questions?
I just wanted to ask John, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but will it affect our, the number of existing councillors we have? I mean, is there a sort of boundary commission aspect to this whereby they look at how many representatives certain numbers of electors should receive or to have? Is that going to be impacted?
Potentially, I mean, that is something which is being looked at and does form part of the submission to the authority and making to government. So, yeah, it will sort of go on. I'd imagine, I think obviously as Brighton Hove had its boundary commission changes implemented, the last set of elections you had in 2023, where obviously that took into account the number of electors per councillor. I'd imagine because that it was done so recently, that would probably be the most accurate model. Whereas before, it was the last time we had boundary commissions in Brighton was about 20 odd years before that. So, without knowing for certain, my sort of gut feeling would be we've probably got the most up-to-date, accurate figures along that. But no, it is something which is considered, and especially where you've got a county council and a district or borough underneath it, that it really is going to be quite a big upheaval for them. So, but I think in terms of us as a city, I would say probably our modelling is the most up-to-date and accurate it probably could be.
So earlier on, you were speaking about a consultation that ran from the 17th of February to, was it the 13th of April?
Yes, yeah.
And so what consultation is that? And is that something that people can input into?
Yes, so yeah, that's so that's the government led consultation on devolution, so the effectively on the Sussex footprint for the strategic authority, and yeah, any member of the public, any authority, business, residents group can input into that consultation.
Right.
I can get a link over to you if you want to share it.
We'll circulate the link on that. And then the other consultation, well, is an engagement.
Yes.
And that's an engagement up to the 10th of March.
Yes.
So we haven't got a lot of time there, but that's also very much for us locally to feed back to the council this view on actual local government, on local government reorganisation, on the unitaries, and on the footprint, right?
That's it. So yeah, there's a sort of very strong feeling you want Brighton Hove to, broadly stay in the same footprint, representing the city and its identity. There's your opportunity to feed in on that. Yes, yeah, it's on your voice, but like I said, I'll send both links over.
That would be really
to
great.
you
We'll
to share around.
Yeah. Yes. So, Jen.
I just wanted to ask about how the strategic mayoral authority will actually be composed politically, because you were just floating the possibility that it might have a different political complexion to the mayor, Tory mayor. It might not be a Tory mayoral authority.
Yeah.
Will it be sort of proportional to the total? Will it have a sort of proportional feel compared with the voter base in the unitary authorities over the whole of Sussex, or how will that work out?
Yeah, so my understanding of how it will be set out is each of the local authorities within the Sussex footprint. So let's say, for argument's sake, there's going to be 5 local unitary authorities within. They will send 2 reps each on there, so it would potentially be made up of 10 reps from the different councils, and then the 1 mayor.
Right, and 2 reps of the kind of governing party. For
Yeah,
that
depending on
authority.
I suppose that would depend on the outcome of the election within those unitary authorities. So Brighton Hove at the moment, as we've got overall control, we would send two Labour reps there, whereas if the council was split between Labour and Greens, we might send one of each. So I guess that would be managed and worked out on that unitary authorities build up of councillors. So it's all quite sort of at the moment still a lot of hypotheticals, isn't there, with it, but it's great. Hello.
Julia.
Understand making case. I think that we really move on with the program. Policy, would it come from the last group? I mean, education doesn't seem to be mentioned as such that I can find. Can you help me on that?
Yes, so education would come as it is at the moment from the unitary authorities. So at the moment it's county councils and unitaries which do it. So it will just be unitaries, but obviously notwithstanding what currently happens with the relationship between Department for Education and the government. So that won't be done on a sort of Sussex level. So it would be the national government above feeding down to the unitaries. So that would have a hold on education.
And I think that there are arguments about giving unitaries more powers in education as well.
Policy on things like casualisation, would that still be the overarching?
Yeah, that would be the overarching framework,
So
yes.
that isn't an option for unitary, so no, we're not doing that.
No, it isn't at the moment, and it probably won't be in it. So things like that would still be, for national government, because it would be devolved. The Sussex Strategic Authority wouldn't have those devolved powers.
But anyway, it's as is, isn't it? That's not part of the conversation of what's changing. That's as is. Are there any other questions? Well, I think it's great that we have this engagement, very, very important, a very short time. It is all happening so very, very quickly. The thing is, the consequences of all of this are going to last very long. We've got a very short time in which to give our views here. You referenced the local government reorganisation in the 1970s, which had very, very big results, really, in terms of people feeling that they were in areas that they didn't really identify with. But I think here what I'm hearing is that although we like our current footprint, there are immediate neighbours who probably would benefit from being part of it. So that's part of the conversation, isn't it?
Negative even wording. We don't want to be there. The answer is seriously, would you believe?
No, sure.
And I think from Lewis, there was quite everyone's going based on sort of territory.
Yeah. Okay, well, can I just really thank John
No, thank you.
very much for coming.